Hi everyone, and welcome to my YouTube channel. This is Dr. Charles Wood coming at you from Duquesne University. Today we'll be giving you questions that you might run across on an interview dealing with risk management. In particular, these apply to the CISSP, one of the 10 domains. Risk management is one of those. And so some of the questions here might be able to give you some insight on what you need to study for. So let's get started. The first is, what is risk management with respect to information security? Okay, so that's the important one, because many people don't know. I mean, the obvious answer is we manage risks, right? But what does that mean? And what it means is that it's usually divided into 4 areas. You get identification of the risk first. So in this case, identification, we try to identify what risks are going to threaten us. The second is assessment. After we identify them, we assess how vulnerable we are, how much it's going to cost us. And then the third area is control. After we identify the risk, and then we assess the damage it's going to cause or how vulnerable we are, we decide how much and what measures we're going to use to control the risk. That means pretty much stop the risk or mitigate it. And then the final step is the reduction of risk. So after we control the risk, we reduce it and then see if it was reduced. And so it's actually a never-ending process. And if you think about all the vulnerabilities your organization faces, risk management is actually very, very involved. Okay, what is cost-benefit analysis? This is a specific type of accounting analysis where you list the financial value of all the costs, all the problems you're going to have, how much is that going to cost you, and the benefit you get from any action. So when you control for a risk, how much is it going to cost you to control for that risk, and what's the benefit you get from controlling from your risk? If some control has a negative cost benefit, then you don't want to control for it. You want to let it go. So, and that's something that oftentimes managers who are trained in technology don't apply. They do understand it, they don't apply it. So they come in and they say, we've got to control for all risks, and they never take a moment to say, but it's costing us a ton of money and not giving us much benefit. We don't want to control for that. Okay, so what are the 4 risk control strategies? There are 4 of them. One is to defend against the risk. Okay, so that is stop the risk cold. So if someone's getting through your firewall, you rip out your firewall and put a new firewall in, and that stops the attacker cold. That's a defense. Now it costs you money because you have to buy a new firewall, but it stops the attacker cold. Then the second one is the transfer. This is the buying insurance or setting up a cold site. The idea is that you're going to face the risk no matter what. It costs too much to control for. If you do become subject to the risk being actualized, that you want to transfer some of the financial burden to someone else. So if you have a fire in your information systems area, the insurance company will pay you to restore your business operations, for instance. Or if your site gets hacked where it's completely brought down, you contract with another organization to set up a warm site where your people can go there instead of their own site to work on their information systems. Okay, the third is to mitigate it. This is the idea that we're not stopping the risk. So in this case, say you have passwords that aren't being encrypted and people could steal your password database, you encrypt the passwords. Did you stop all the risk from people stealing the passwords? No, you didn't. You mitigated it somewhat, though, so if someone does steal your file, they don't get all your passwords because they're encrypted. And then the final strategy, and it is a strategy, is to accept the risk. We know we're vulnerable to this. What are you going to do? We're accepting it. Okay, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. Again, if the costs are prohibitive, you might have to accept the risk, and that might be okay. Okay, the next question. What are the 4 levels of U.S. federal government data classification? Actually, there are 5, but let's do the 4 and then the 5th, what I call the 5th one. Sensitive means that our national interests are affected by the release of information. So you can look at the Snowden link, for instance, when he released all that information. Was our security threatened? Probably not too much. Was our national interests threatened? Yeah, they were, though. That's sensitive. Now, the confidential means that it could be damage to national security. This is not national interest. This is security. Things will go badly. Lives will be lost. Now, there's different levels of what is damage. What is considered damage, sometimes any type of lives lost, threat of life lost, any type of injury is usually where a lot of people draw the line on damage. That if someone can come in and someone could lose their lives, that starts to be damage. The next level is secret secret where you have serious damage. So it's just called secret classification, where you have serious damage, and then and that means that probably the government itself is not threatened, but many lives will be lost, but not like in a catastrophe maybe. For instance, the release of all the undercover agents around the world would be serious, but and then top secret would be exceptionally grave damage. So the serious classification is for grave damage, and serious or secret, and it's for grave damage. And then the top secret is for exceptionally grave damage. This is the 9/11. This is thousands of people dying, cities under attack, financial system destroyed, many lives being lost, and that's top secret. Nuclear launch codes would be that. Okay, and then finally, what's the difference between vulnerability, threat, and risk? Okay, a threat is any type of attack on any asset that is available. Now, this doesn't mean you're vulnerable to it. A vulnerability means that you have an asset that is subject to attack from a threat. So, if I were in an Arizona desert, a threat would be that frozen power to destroy my power cords, but not in Arizona. So the threat would be frozen weather. The vulnerability would not exist because I'm in Arizona. So that's the difference. Okay, then the risk is I've heard two definitions, and one is the probability that a threat takes advantage of a vulnerability. So that's the probability that that's going to happen. And some people go a little further and say that's the money lost when you multiply the probability by the amount of that the threat's going to cost you. And so risk deals with probabilities, and the other two are more existential, whether they exist or not. And so the threats are anything that can happen to an asset, and the vulnerability is any type of threat, asset, whether or not you're vulnerable, and then the risk is the percentage of likelihood of an attack. And so those are the three differences. Those two. They're used interchangeably a lot, and probably erroneously so. But that is definition. Okay, thank you very much. Hey, check out my YouTube subscription here, because we're releasing more and more videos every week. And also, check out my Amazon book site. Thank you very much.